Hi-yo! Hello again and welcome to our latest edition of Portal Season 2024. This is going to be episode number 9, and I always miss it every single time. I am Jay Tate. I'm the publisher / Commodore / owner at auburnsports.com. Thank you for joining me today as we go through a very quick recap of everything that happened with Auburn in the portal. And I'll look ahead to a couple things I think that will be happening in short order. Today, the big news, Dallas Walker has signed with the Auburn Tigers. He is an inside defensive lineman from Western Kentucky. He actually played out of high school. He signed with Texas A&M. He's from the greater Nashville area. And a big-time recruit in the 20 class. He was one of the, I wouldn't say he was the star of that class, but he was one of the strong parts of that Texas A&M class. Was only there for a little while and ended up at Western Kentucky, where he played a bunch of games last season. 61.5 grade is not awesome, but PFF, Pro Football Focus, which does the grades, I feel like there's certain positions that don't get the credit they deserve, because if you're going to play nose, right, you're going to be taking on double teams, and really your goal there is to kind of have a draw there at that spot and keep the garbage off of your linebackers. It's not a sexy job. It's not a glamorous job, but when it's done correctly, it is an extremely valuable job. And this is a position that Auburn, I think, has not been very good at. I thought Isaiah Rakes last year for Auburn Tigers was just okay. Jason Jones graded out well, but I never felt like watching him play that he was like that really tough dude that could really help you against the run. He was just like a big dude that just fought a lot. And there's value to that, but I felt like Auburn needed to have something better. And I think Auburn felt like it needed to have something better. So Dallas Walker is going to be, at least for now, the solution at nose guard. And we'll just kind of see if maybe they add somebody else who can work there. I don't necessarily know that Auburn has somebody like that. I mean, Bobby Jamison Travis could do some of that, I guess. And I had that as Auburn's number 3 need overall. You see there on the left, quarterback ×2, left tackle, and nose for me were the big ones. So Dallas Walker gives you some depth there, obviously. And he's a guy that, for me, going into the season, you're going to feel like that's the guy that should probably win the job and give you a lot of quality snaps and just be strong and use those long levers and just control those A gaps. That's really what you got to do, and make it so your linebackers can do what they do. With the addition of Dallas Walker, Auburn now has 9 players that they've signed out of the portal. And I give my impact score to Dallas Walker. I give him a B-, which I think is being generous. I thought about giving him a C+. Again, I think he's a very good athlete. I think that he went to Western Kentucky as a step down and did a nice job. I think he was an important part of what they were doing there. And I think he's still got some growth left, even though he's a class of 20 signee and he's only got 1 year to play here. I still think he can get better. And I think that Dallas Walker, will benefit a lot from Durkin. I think Durkin really sees value in a player like Dallas Walker, and I think it'll click for him really well. So Auburn, again, doing good in the portal, doing well in the portal. I like a lot of this. Jackson Arnold and Ryan Strider are the 2 guys that really stand out to me. Xavier Chaplin is the 3rd guy, the left tackle. I really like him. Other than that, I think they're kind of filling holes, but it won't be like this forever. Let me talk about a couple kids that visited during the past 48 hours. Jaylen Smith is one of them, a linebacker from Tennessee, 6'2", 230. Played in 12 games, did not start last year, playing for a much improved Tennessee defense. They have gotten really good up there. And I think that maybe surprised him a little bit too. He signed in the 23 class out of Grayson, thinking he'd have an opportunity to slide in there, because Tennessee, a couple of years ago wasn't great on defense, but they got up to speed very, very quickly. Kind of the way that Auburn is doing, in my opinion. Played 12 games, 256 snaps as a backup, finished with 25 tackles. And a 71.7 grade from PFF is very credible for somebody who is playing a difficult position like that and is being asked to do a lot, because when he's in there, man, he is playing. He's got responsibilities, and he handled them pretty well. He's also considering Virginia Tech and Mississippi State, 2 places that he has visited already. So we're thinking he'll have an answer pretty soon. I would say within maybe 3 days is when you would see Jaylen Smith pop one way or another. I think Auburn can only benefit from adding depth at linebacker, and I think Durkin, that's kind of his specialty. And if he's looking at a guy like Jaylen Smith and saying, that guy's got the skills that I need, because like last year, Dorian Maosi, that they brought in from Duke, right? I mean, Durkin was just infatuated with this kid. He thought, this is exactly what I need. And I looked at him and I thought, I don't know, man, really? But Dorian played a great season. I thought he was reliable from start to finish, and he was kind of like the Dre of the defense, a guy who was invaluable, but we didn't necessarily talk about him all that much. I mean, Dre we did toward the end of the season, but Dre was really good from start to finish, and honestly, I think Dorian Mousey was too. So when DJ Durkin says Jaylen Smith, somebody that I'm interested in him too, because I know that DJ knows what he's talking about. TJ Cersi, another player who was here. I think he's left already now. It says he's a defensive tackle. He is absolutely not. He's like a jack backer for them. He's an outside backer. He can also play a little D end if he needed to. 6'5", 262. Very, very long player. Played in 12 games last season with 4 starts. I think his issue at Florida is that he was playing behind like Pyburn, who was kind of coming into his own this past year and just had a hard time breaking out. And I think it was a source of frustration for him. He's from Thomaston, Georgia, was recruited by everybody coming out of high school, chose Florida over Clemson and Florida State. And now Auburn is definitely involved and interested in TJ Cersi, a 4-star recruit from the 23 class. And I think he's a player, man. 39 tackles and 4 sacks in his 24 games. He's played 2 seasons there at Florida. Really one for a developmental season that they just played him a little bit as a third-team guy. Then this past year, it was kind of, he played behind Pyburn for sure, but then him and Gums were kind of trading out snaps. And I think he just wanted to go somewhere where he could get a more clear path to playing time. And he's certainly a guy that could be a solution at Buck. I happen to think Clev Lubin from Coastal Carolina would be the best choice there. But I'm not opposed to having 2 guys play that position and rotate it out and let the fittest man win the job, so to speak, as Darwin would say. So TJ Cersi is one to keep an eye on for sure. Horatio Fields, the outstanding wide receiver. He's not outstanding. He's a solid wide receiver from Wake Forest, 6'3", 205. I actually spoke with someone who covers Wake Forest yesterday about Horatio, and when I listened to that assessment, all I could think about was Cam Brown. He sounds a lot like Camden Brown, a guy who can win aerial duels, has a harder time getting away from coverage. I think he has 2.5-ish yards, yak yards per catch, which is low. So he's a possession receiver. You throw him the ball. He early on in his Wake Forest career, he dropped a lot of passes, and that was the reason he didn't play. He really improved on that, worked on the jugs machine, really concentrated more in the actual catching mechanism. And last year had a drop rate of 5%, which is above average. I mean, that's really good. He only had 2 drops the whole season, and he played a bunch. So he's going to be picking between Auburn and Kentucky, and I've got a pretty good feeling it's going to be Auburn. So I'd expect him to pop tomorrow, maybe midday, something like that. And that would be the 10th player that Auburn would add from the portal if he does indeed choose Auburn over Kentucky. And that would address one of the top needs there in the left box. I think that he is probably an X receiver, which means he would be competing with Cam Coleman if he was there. If he goes to Z receiver, and I'm not sure that that's really his best spot, but if he went there, he'd be competing with Perry Thompson, with Perry for sure. So let's kind of see how that plays out. But I think he's a solid, good player. I think he's a little better than Cam, but I don't think he's going to set the world on fire. He's just a solid, good player with a lot of experience. Now, different story here. Eric Singleton is about to pop. I think he's about to make his decision. I would not be surprised to see him pick Auburn maybe tomorrow on Thursday or by Friday at the latest. I feel like Auburn's got a really good spot, and the fact that Tay Seymour, his best friend and roommate, recently signed with Auburn as a safety, I think that helps the case. Singleton also has a good relationship with Kenyatta, who he's known for years and years. Auburn's Kenyatta, I'm not sure what his actual official title is, but he's kind of like their high school liaison and helps with recruiting, particularly with emphasis in the Atlanta area. So I think Auburn's going to land Eric Singleton. I think he's a made-to-order slot receiver, and I think he can play outside even though he's only 5'11". I think he's just extremely fast and a pretty reliable pass catcher for sure. So I think that would be a huge addition for them. The thing that kind of concerns me, I guess if you want to say it that way, is if he signs, Malcolm Simmons and Bryce Cain have got to be looking at this going, whoa, what are we doing here? Because Malcolm's somebody you definitely want to keep. He's just super explosive, and he showed that knack this season for being able to make some plays, man. I like Malcolm Simmons a lot, and I think Eric Singleton definitely can help Auburn's offense be better, but I think if you do that at the expense of Malcolm Simmons, that could be not so good. Taking a look at the beast list, I haven't made any changes to it, but we had to discuss two things here, that Zechariah Poyser chose Miami along with CJ Daniels, which surprised me a little bit because CJ, was recruited by Hugh Freeze to Liberty. They have a very good relationship, and he was at LSU last year. But I think in the end, there's at some point you've got to spread this portal money around, and you can't pay everybody, A1 prices. So CJ Daniel goes to Miami, and nothing else here really changes. I do expect Auburn to get Eric Singleton, and I'm not as sure about Clev Lubin, but I would at this point be surprised if Auburn doesn't land him. I think Josh Thompson ends up at Ohio State, and that's pretty much the way that would go right there. So there's our quick update today. I thank you for watching it. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to tell you a little bit about Horatio Fields and him committing or signing with the Auburn Tigers. That would be terrific, and get them up to double-digit additions in the portal. Appreciate you guys watching this. Again, I'm Jay Tate at auburnsports.com. It's a nice website. I would strongly suggest you go check it out if you haven't already. See you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Peace.